Welcome to our Monday, January 17th edition of Track Announcer's Notebook. It's a bit of a road racing rewind as we look back on Team Champini that were very much a part of the Canadian road racing scene in the late 80s here in this country. We've got Rick Hobbs and Stu Shaw, who were part of that amazing crew that took Steve Crevier to a triple championship in 1989. But as always, first up is Nodell's notes. Stuart?
Yeah, thanks, Pat. Just want to share with everybody this week we've had some sad news in the racing world. And we'll start first with Canadian rider Dave Klassen, who passed away at the end of December, actually, Pat, but he had a 6-month battle with cancer, and just wanted to send our condolences to his friends and family.
Yeah, Dave was, one of the real good guys in road racing, very talented. I think, at one point, I think he could have been one of our very top superbike riders if he would have got like a real top ride. But in the years he did race, he had some incredible championships, probably best known for his rides on that Ontario Honda Yamaha Tenere that was an amazing motorcycle built out of Ontario Honda. Murray Brown, Rick Andrews, Mike Crompton, Bill Mason, who I spoke to, and also Mike Crompton were all part of that crew along with Scotty McKay. And Dave had some incredible rides on that bike. Raced not only up here, but in Weira. Also did some of the AMA Battle of the Twins events. I believe he had a second one year behind the Honda rider Keo Watanabe at Loudon in the early 90s. I spoke to Bill Mason this week, and the bike right now, I think it went through a number of hands, is sitting in a garage in the Ottawa area, and he hopes to somehow purchase that bike in the spring and maybe look at doing a bit of a project to restore that bike to all its glory. That'd be great. Dave, of course, moved out to Vancouver Island many years ago. He was an amazing electrician and will be sadly missed and gone far too young at age 58. And there you see the picture there, his two kids, Zoe, and of course, Colin Fraser. If you'd like to read a very nice tribute to Dave Klassen, the CSBK website has a nice tribute to Super Dave Klassen.
And then another sad news, Pat, just a week ago, actually, Dave Sadowski passed away of a heart attack, obviously well known for his Daytona 200 win, as well as the 1990 600 Super Sport AMA National Championship. And I think also, Pat, he's from the New Hampshire area. Dave was also a very well-known, I think it was NCAA level hockey player.
Yeah, he was just a great all-around athlete. New Hampshire Speedway, the Loudon National was where he really, shined. In addition to, of course, that Daytona 200 win in 1990, and a couple of years ago, it was March 2020 that marked the 30th anniversary of David Sadowski's win. He was at the Wednesday Daytona 200 Monument celebration. Artist Lee Bivens had done an incredible painting basically showing Sadowski on that Vance and Heinz Yamaha. Had probably one of the coolest paint schemes I've ever seen on a motorcycle. And later that evening, a couple of years ago, we've done a Daytona dinner. Some of the folks who are on the call tonight have joined us for that. And David Sadowski was there, just celebrating motorcycle racing with the rest of us. And, a couple of days later was when COVID all broke out. And after his racing career, of course, David was an outstanding color commentator on the Speed Vision broadcast of the AMA Superbikes. And again, like Dave Klassen, 58 years of age, he has gone far too long. And our condolences go out to two great riders that we've lost here just in the last last few weeks, David Sadowski and David Klassen. Our condolences to their friends and family.
And then in one other sad bit of news, Pat, is Preston Petty, who's well known in the motocross world from back in the 60s. He was an outstanding motocrosser himself, and then obviously well known, probably more so, at least for my generation, for his Preston Petty motocross products.
Yeah, I guess it's, it's that time in some of our lives when you get into your late 60s, early 70s, you start losing some of the people that were part of your youth. And
then in MotoGP news, Mark Marquez earlier this week tested 65 laps at the Algarve circuit in Portugal, Pat, and by all reports, his health is good and he's ready to go. At least he's improving in the issues with his vision.
Well, it would be great to see him back 100%. I know he's been suffering from that double vision issue, and hopefully that is behind him, and he'll be 100% healthy with no issues to start the MotoGP season.
And then in other news, Pat, Dunlop is raffling off this O'Valley 160, and it's going to be present at all the Moto America races, as well as the Moto America Mini Cup championship this year. And I thought it was a cool looking bike. And since we've talked so much lately about young riders and the different development ladders that are being created, I thought it was fitting to share this information.
Rick Hobbs, you're going to be seeing this bike a few times this season. Junior Cup used to be the first rung on the Moto America ladder, but looks like they've added another rung to that ladder in hopes of sending more American riders to the MotoGP and World Superbike Championships.
Right. Yeah, that's another of those late additions that I think is an encouraging sign for the series that we're going to have that stepping stone for the younger riders to come up and have a goal to reach for. Yeah,
indeed. Stuart?
Yeah, thanks, Pat. That's all we have in the Odell's notes. So what I'll do is I'll stop sharing my screen. Oh, there we have Steve Crevier. And now we've just got to, I will let you guys start your conversation, Pat, and I'll try and get Frank on board.
Okay, Steve, I think you're muted. So I'm going to start with Rick Hobbs, and hopefully Frank Ciampini, who has, after retiring from his Monday to Friday job, I had dinner with Frank back in October when I was there. He has retired to, of all places, Daytona Beach, Florida. And I know he was at the ARM event a week or so ago, and he'll be there at Daytona. But hopefully we can get Frank on. But I did have a good chat with him, and some of the details there I can share. Rick Hobbs, I guess we're going to focus for the most part on the magical 1989 season where Steve, who we'll talk to here in a minute, won the 250 Grand Prix, 600 production, and Superbike championships. Tell us in your words how that whole team came together, because I think at that point you had moved from Vancouver to Toronto and was the service manager at McBride Cycle on Dundas Street West.
Yeah, some things have become a little misty in the time that's ensued since then. But yeah, obviously I knew Steve and from Westwood and racing against him for several years with different riders. But it was kind of one of those things where I really didn't have anything planned for that season. I was already kind of committed to help with the Opus Ferrum team for Frank, and we worked a deal between Frank and yourself, Pat, with the 250, and Yamaha Canada and Steve, and put all the pieces together. And you know, it worked out that John and his family were kind enough to give us some space to work at the McBride Cycle when we were in Toronto. And yeah, it was just you know, it was really a terrific season. I mean, we got along well. You know, obviously we're missing a key member that I wish was still here to reminisce on that year. But yeah, Steve Wyatt was my partner in crime, and yeah, we had some adventures traveling across country, and yeah, just you know, a lot of things had to happen at the right time for it all to come together, and it was pretty amazing when you know, we sat back and reflected on the year and everything that we had accomplished.
Well, prior to '89, Frank, who was a longtime road racing enthusiast, had sponsored the likes of Kyle Andrews under the Opus Ferrum that eventually evolved into Team Champini, and then Paul McMillan, and we'll share some photos a little bit later on. Paul McMillan was sponsored, I believe, in '88 on an RC30, and then that whole program came together. I'm going to bring Steve Crevier in here. Steve, we want to give Stu Shaw some airtime because he was the wrench on the other Aprilia. As Rick said, you know, I was having a pretty good year as a radio sales guy, and Frank approached me to see if I would finance one of the two Aprilias that he brought in from, I think, a couple of Austrian riders had raced it the year before in the European Championships. Tell us in your words how that all came together, where you had a program with the Pacific Yamaha Bill McLean 750. You had the 600 that both Steve Wyatt and Rick worked on, and then you also had the Aprilia 250. Did you think that was going to be too much of a workload riding a 250, a 600, and a superbike?
Well, like Rick says, you know, it's like everything sort of started coming together, but then it's just, you know, it just got crazy because like Frank asked me to ride the 250, again, the Q107 250, and that was great and everything. And so we started with that program, and then Bill McLean, because of just, you know, he did a lot of business with Yamaha, and he got an OW01, and he said, well, you know, do you want to run that? Do you want to, like, do you want to race this bike? This bike's supposed to be really good. And it's like, I mean, how can you say? It's like, I was very fortunate. I had an OW01 750 Yamaha land in my lap. And we didn't get any kit parts or any special anything. But, you know, and he had that. And he says, well, you know, why don't you ride a 600 as well? Can you take that? And so lo and behold, I mean, the Ciampini cube van got loaded up with a few extra bikes and a lot of extra work. And, you know, for me, I mean, obviously it turned out really well, but for Rick and Steve, I think it put a heavy workload. But to be really honest, I think the purpose of just riding just a 250 and having to travel like all that way, you know, back and forth just to ride a 250 maybe wasn't really a great thing. But to have like the other bikes there as well means just move back east and stay the summer and really put your efforts into it. And you know what? It really, really worked out because I sort of stopped listening to people and I ran stock engines and stopped trying to modify, you know, just let's just try to stick together and see if we can keep the stuff alive under me. And we finished races and everything worked out really well. It was, you know, I look back today and think about what we did and everything with Rick, Steve Wyatt, and you know, for Frank Ciampini and everything. And it's like, at times I think I was a bit of a, can I say dickhead, jerk? I was a bit kind of very forward on what I wanted to do and what I wanted to run. But you know what? I went at it with a bit of a plan. The plan was, don't let yourself get distracted and just do what you got to do and just finish, and instead of pushing the equipment too hard and trying to modify things and have short lives. Like today, the engines last forever. Back then, we'd always have to modify them. They didn't last a long time. So it really, really did work out. And it really launched me into a 30-year career, in racing. But it was at that point that things really started to turn around for me. And again, thanks to Steve, Wyatt, and Rick Hobbs. And like I could say to Rick, is not always did things go really well. I've never actually had to throw my mechanics out on the side of the road. But we're in Wyoming and I literally threw them out of my van. I was so pissed off. But anyways, not always does things go so great. But that's just one of those moments in racing that you just can't forget. It was really, really a great time with the Ciampini Racing crew. Yeah.
Steve, I got to come back and get into some specifics of those 3 championships, but I want to bring in Stu Shaw. Stu, you were the mechanic working with Jonathan Cornwell, who was the teammate to Steve on those 250 Grand Prix machines, the Aprilias. I can remember being at Calgary that year, and Steve and Jonathan were out. I don't think it was a race. I think it was a practice session. And on that long drag strip straightaway, a Crevier pulls up alongside of Cornwell, reaches up on the tail section. Steve remembers this and pulls his way past. What was the relationship like between Steve and Jonathan back in 1989 when they were both fighting for that 250 Grand Prix championship that Steve eventually won?
Wow, that's a good question. It was a bit chilly in there at times. There was definitely their side of the tent and our side of the tent. And, as much as everybody tried to put it together, it just, you can't have two roosters in the hen house. And that's kind of the way things were going. And it was unfortunate. And, age, if the same thing happened today, I think we'd all take a step back and go, hey, wait a second. But back then we were all young and, full of, what do you call it? Vinegar and piss or whatever. And it just didn't work out that way. And as much as Steve Steve and Wyatt and Rick had an awesome year, John and I, all we did was crash all the time. And it was a tough year, very tough.
Did you share much information, setup details between those two Aprilia 250s?
No. Which again, hindsight being what it is, that was a big mistake because we all would have benefited from that.
Yeah, Rick, what's your take on what Stu says was a bit of a chilly situation between Crevier and Cornwell?
Yeah, I think Stu nailed it when he said, there's not enough room in a hen house for 2 roosters. But, I think, the team itself got along fairly well. It was just back then it was, pretty much every man for himself. And, we were teammates, but we were still, I've heard more recently than then, the first person you want to beat as a racer is your teammate. And, I think that kind of carries over to the crew sometimes too. And so, yeah, there was definitely some team rivalry there. And, we as crew guys, we were pretty busy most of the time. So there wasn't a lot of time to play head games or any of that kind of stuff. But yeah, we looked at across the tent and said, we got to beat those guys. So, we don't want to give them all our secrets. So.
Yeah. Well, let's bring in the grand poobah of Team Ciampini, Frank Ciampini, coming from his place in Daytona Beach. Frank, good to have you on the show. I know we talked about this for a while. It was good seeing you back in October. what is your take on how you played referee, if you will, between Cornwell and Crevier trying to win that 250 Grand Prix championship?
Well, I mean, everybody knows Steve Crevier, and although he's a very talented rider, but sometimes he's very comical and he's got a short fuse, you know. And it's like Stu says, there was rivalry between the two. I tried to play the middleman to try to get everybody going, but you know that's not going to happen. So it is what it is, and we fought through that. But
yeah, I think we've got some questions or comments, Stuart Nodell, in the Q&A. Let's take care of those, and we'll
okay,
get back to our conversation here with Rick Hobbs, Stu Shaw, Steve Crevier, and Frank Ciampini.
Yeah, thanks, Pat. Just a few comments as people were coming into the show, and just some nice memories about Dave Class and saying what a great guy he was, and that's really been the consensus around the sport from people I've talked
yes.
to, is just how well he was liked and had a lot of friends in the paddock.
Okay, that's great. And as I said, Colin Fraser has a lovely tribute to Dave Klassen, and will continue to update you on whether or not that Yamaha Tenere is going to be restored and brought back to its glory in the months to come. Frank Ciampini, I touched on it just a little bit before
Okay.
we got into the start of the show about your background, sponsoring Kyle Andrews, then
Yes.
Paul McMillan, and then eventually really putting together a big team with running 3 bikes. How did all those pieces come together for Steve to win 3 national championships in 1989? What was the genesis coming out of the 1988 season and figuring, you know, if I'm going to do it, I've got to go full tilt boogie here?
Well, by 1988, I've been at it for 3 years, and I said to myself, well, in 1989, I want to do something different. I want to put a team together with a lot of diversity in it. I wanted to, to go back one step before that, I mean, most teams at that time in the early 80s, they were all privateers and single rider teams, and I thought I wanted to put something grandiose put together, and I wanted to put multiple classes, multiple riders, and in order so that maybe a privateer team can challenge the big guns, you know, the Reuben McMurders, the Robbins, Goodfellas, Merciers, those type of people, right? And accomplishing that, you know, that wasn't an easy task, because although I had that dream, putting it all together was a big issue. Putting the riders, who are you going to pick for riders? But in 1988, I'd done my homework, and I studied the riders real carefully, and Steve Crevier really impressed me, especially at Calgary in 1988. If you remember that race, him and let's see, who was it that they had a photo finish? I think it was Picot, if I'm not mistaken. Was it him? Yeah. But anyway, so I definitely approached Steve and see if he had any interest in my ideas going forward with that. And he did. He says, pick me. He says, I guarantee you, these were his words, I quote, he says, I guarantee you we'll win. And
how many championships? Was it win 1, get 2 free, or?
Well, I didn't, to be honest with you. I mean, that was a big dream. I didn't think we'd win any, but you know, to win all 3, I still can't believe that that was accomplished today. We were lucky in a way, especially in the 600. You know, the last race, I believe Steve and Tommy Douglas were tied in points. Like I said, this is 30 plus years ago, but I believe that was the case. And
Yep.
Steve came in third, and Douglas came in fifth, so handed us the win. But yeah, and also in the Superbike in '89, and if you remember, when we were out in Vancouver, it was a rainy day, and Ruben was leading the points. Ruben was leading the points, and I thought to myself, we're not going to have a chance here. So what happens? Ruben crashes with about 3 or 4 laps to go, and Steve finished fifth, but that was enough for Ruben to hand over the number 1 to Steve. So we were lucky in a way, but it was good. It was. I was very pleased. I know Steve is. They call him the Squid Kid for a reason. Steve is a very, very talented rider. He's very aggressive. And the best part of him is he's very comical at times. Okay. And which the lighter side of him, especially people enjoy that part of him.
Thanks,
Steve,
Frank.
I
Yeah.
want to come back, and as Frank alluded to, you guys had some breaks go your way. I think that '89 was the year that in that 600 production class, Daryl Fletcher got around you at the hairpin on the last lap, took the win, cost you some points. I'm sure you've never.
That's okay.
Yeah, never
That's
forgotten.
okay.
So going to the final race in that class, because I think you had pretty much wrapped up the other 2 championships by that final round in '89.
Not yet.
Not yet. But
No.
the 600, when you had to come from behind and managed to just scrape by Tommy Douglas. At the start of the year, did you think you could win all 3?
Well, the thing is like you go back the year before, and again, Frank brought up about the 1988 season. It's like in 1987, I tried everything, and we had modified engines, and everything, and the bikes wouldn't live under me. My back shifting is brutal, and I come in, like I don't care about power. All I care about is to back that sucker off and then just touch that throttle and to get that bike turned and everything. And it's like my deceleration was always, I short-lived a lot of engines. Now, the funny thing is, going to Calgary, I thought in '88, my career was kind of over, and I just want to ride a 250 in the States. And I wouldn't let Steve Wyatt modify that engine, not one, nothing. Don't deck the head, nothing. Just, we're running it. I'm going to get points in the AMA. We're going to finish 5th. I'm going to make my money back. We're going to be able to get to the next race. You know what I mean? Because the prize money was great back then. So point being is I had already sold my '88 Yamaha to, I don't want to say his name, but anyways, and he told me about how my mechanics were. And so I got my '87 FZR Yamaha back, and we had a production engine in the thing. And I went to Calgary and I pulled that thing out of the race. Now in '87, I was just too much stress, too much everything. I couldn't focus, like it was just like everybody's telling you to run this, these brake pads, that, these tires, this and that. And it's like, it's just bullshit, bull crap. But in '88, I said, we're going to run things, Steve, and nobody's going to, nothing, nothing. You just do as I say. And so we go to Calgary, and now I literally had a 750 production race with Miguel Duhamel, which at the line, I got him. But Alan LaBrosse was running the series at the time, and he's manager of the race series and the manager of Miguel Duhamel. And the thing is, there was video footage of the finish, and it shows on the video footage that, Miguel might have won the race, except for the fact is that I was on the other side and Miguel's on the inside, and the video footage is from behind us, from his father. Actually, Yvonne Duhamel video footage. So I really literally lost that race out of maybe just complete BS, if I can say that. Now that's kind of crappy because I ran good, I ran hard. It was a fun race, great race with Miguel and everything. And he's just a phenomenal rider, and I've been a bridesmaid to him, so he can just, oh, I hate that guy. No, I mean, Miguel is like simply the greatest rider Canada's ever had.
Yeah.
Now, going into the 250 race, I'm running that bloody TZ Yamaha that, you know, like, yeah, again, it's, you know, and John Cornwall is the tuner. I'm not a tuner. I never worked on the damn bikes. I don't give a damn about them. Like, just let them live under me. They don't have to be fast. Let them live. So I'm in the race, and it's a good long battle with him, and I don't stand a chance coming down the corners, down the straightaways and everything. But you know, in the corners, I can eat them up and spit them out. And so the thing is, it's like we come on to the last lap, and I pass him. I pass him in the middle of this concrete wall, keyhole thing, whatever. I pass him in that, and I feed him. Like, you come onto the front straight, and there's an outside wall to protect that Calgary's lampposts for their lighting of that nighttime drag straight. And like, I could literally have ran him into the hay bales and either ended his life or just broke his legs and whatever the hell, right? But he's on this bike. This bike is a rocket. So I gave him the room. I didn't rub my elbow into his throttle side and, you know, make him tank slap or nothing. Honest, clean, fair. But I pass him in the middle of this corner. It's like, what is he like? It's not a lap rider. I mean, he's supposed to be, but anyways. But I let him live. But then he just turns it on. You know, like, I sacrificed my drive, my exit to give him room so I don't pack the guy into a wall and end his life. So he actually just rolls it on, and I'm like, mother of pearl. So I, you know, just kind of tucked in, and I'm like, well, you know, this, and I just kind of reach over and I grab his kneecap, and I just kind of get two fingers. So I won that race. So, and then I lost that because I told myself, so I won the 750 production race, lost that because video footage from, I don't know, someone else's dad in a not on the starting line photo thing. So that was BS. But in the Superbike, I ran a damn production motor in there, and I kicked everybody's butt on a bike that I couldn't do better than fourth on the year before that, simply because of putting a plan together. Now, that being said, you go into our Champini year, Frank, thanks. And, you know, the invite to ride the 250s and everything. And, you know, the 250s is like, I wasn't really great on them. And, you know, it wasn't really my bag and everything. But, you know, when I really kind of wanted to try that OW1, when I started to learn about that thing, kind of made sense. It was a great bike when I first got on it. The only thing we did was I got Steve to like try to make us an airbox. And we did some testing out on the cold ports out by the Tsawwassen Ferry terminals in BC and everything. And I'm like, man, I think I got this thing turned into something. And I didn't really care about the 250s because the 600s, the contingency, the Superbike and the contingency money and the money involved in that, I really didn't even give a damn. And it's like, Rick Hobbs worked really hard with it. He had to work at the shop and then work at nights with this, and it was really a lot going on. But I had one rider to race in the 250s, and it kind of wasn't really a problem or never. So it was more of we put the Yamahas into the deal. I threw them on the Frank's lap. But again, you know, with the OW1 Yamaha and the 600, we didn't have a spare handlebar. I think I had a spare brake or a clutch lever for my Superbike and a foot peg, one side, one or the other. But as Rick will tell you, we had nothing, you know. But so it's important to finish, not wreck. And, you know, you could say that, oh, you know, with a stroke of luck, you go to Westwood and, you know, Ruben crashed. Well, that ain't luck, because I ain't going to win at Westwood when there's 2 more races to go. The heck with that. And in the 600 race, now I've raced 30 years. And in 30 years I've raced, I don't think I've seen more than 10, 12 races I've ever been in. I never watched. I should.
Steve,
But
Steve,
can I say it, Pat?
Yeah,
Daryl
very
Fletcher-
quickly. I want to move on.
Daryl Fletcher was on fire in that 600 race at Westwood. And the thing is, he was going to beat me no matter what. And there's just some days you don't even I would break into the hairpin and leave him on the inside and say, take it. He beat me. And it's like, there's nothing you're going to do about it. You got to let him win. And he beat me. And it's like, I'm very so proud of him. But that's how to add up a championship. And that's what you did. And we did that, Frank. We did that. And it took everybody together. But I think I was a bit cruel in the sense of, you're going to listen to the way that I want to do things. And I don't want to run these tires. I want to run these tires. And a lot of stress. But I had a job to do. And I was just going to do the job. But Daryl Fletcher did kick my ass.
Yeah. Okay. And he'll remind you of that. Stu Shaw, you're there working with Jonathan Cornwell. And we've had Jonathan on the show. He did an amazing job last year with Jake Gagne and fellow Canadian Darren Marshall. And we'll see how they do with Jake in the Daytona 200 coming up in a couple of months. But as you're there working with Jonathan on the 250, what is your observation as what's going on with Steve Wyatt and Rick Hobbs and Frank Ciampini there with the Remy Martin on the weekends where you guys had lots of success? Did you think working with these guys in the other side of the tent that, hey, these guys are going to win 3 championships, or did you see, things not turning out as well as they did?
At the beginning, I mean, we actually thought that we had a chance at the 250 title. John and I did, and then we just never ever got the chassis sorted out. And as time went on, we kept crashing and crashing and crashing. I mean, almost every weekend we would crash, and it was so time consuming to put all of the nice Aprilia stuff back on and all the paint and everything else. We would deliver the bodywork to Frank's painter on Monday, and we wouldn't get it back until like just before we were going away to the race. So that's why at the end of the year, we just went with the hot pink and hot yellow colors and just left it at that, because it was really easy to respray it. But anyway, to answer your question, yeah, those guys, as the year went on, they became more and more dialed in. And Steve's riding was right on the money, and they just walked away with it. They had a really exceptional year, and which is great for Frank too, because I mean that was what he was in it for, right?
Frank, at any point, did you have any doubts that you had made the right decision in bringing Crevier on? I don't mean at the end of the year when you'd won the championships, but maybe some of those weekends where things didn't go as well, and you were dealing with stuff off of the racetrack.
Well, to answer that question, Steve at times can be a very difficult person to deal with. The least I can say, he's very focused and he's very verbal. And if he thinks that something is going to work, and it's got to be that way, regardless of what anybody else has said. And going back and looking back, he was right. So I supported him, and but yeah, he was difficult at times to deal with. And the rivalry between the two, that didn't help the situation any. I tried to calm things down under the tent. We only had this one big tent, and there was a dividing line right down the center. Stu Shaw was on one end, Rick Hobbs was on the other, and I walked the line.
Somebody.
Rick, how much of that was a learning year for you? Because after that, you went on to some amazing work in the United States with the AMA with so many teams, and now all the way up to your work with Moto America. What did you take out of that year that maybe helped you move up very quickly in the AMA?
Well, first of all, I just found out tonight that what I thought was apple juice turned out to be Remy Martin, and I'm still
Bring it over.
But no, it definitely was a very formative time for me. I was still working full time at the dealership, and I had been racing off and on for at that point about 6 or 7 years, and it came to a point of I had to make a decision on what I was going to do for the rest of my life, basically. So I continued to race in Canada for a couple of years and had some success with with Michelle and Lindley, and I loved what I was doing. I loved working at McBride's, and really felt like if I was going to continue in racing, that I was going to have to make a move, and the most obvious thing to do in order to give myself some more room to grow was to move to the US. And I had a chance to go to work for Vance and Hines. And, I think a lot of that began in that 89 season when, we started kind of habitating in that upper echelon of riders and racers in Canada and the AMA. And, I think some of desire comes from a little bit of success. You have some and you want more, and that's kind of what it was for me.
I want to go to Stu Shaw. Stu, I think we've got a couple of questions or comments in the Q&A. And again, we still have about 15 minutes to go. If you've got a question for Rick or Frank or Stu Shaw or Steve Crevier, please make use of that Q&A, and we'll get it addressed here.
Yeah, thanks, Pat. I think you're meaning me, but I'll just jump in here real quick. And the one question for Frank is how were you able to get the Aprilias back at that time in 1988?
Well, I think Pat Gonzalez helped in that process. We purchased them through a rider in
Austria, I think it was.
Austria, yeah, to Austria, and they were 1986 this models, and they just raced them, and they were available for sale, and they wanted to sell both with all the spare parts, the so-called spare parts. There wasn't much there, but the both of them, they wanted $7,000 each, so we purchased them both. And we bought them in December time frame, and we got them sometimes in January, giving us an opportunity to go through them and do what we wanted to do with them. But basically, we didn't do much to them because they were race ready. I mean, Stu can tell you a little bit more about that, the bike conditions themselves, but they were pretty well race ready, and we were happy with the price we paid, so it was a good deal.
And I guess this was really before my time as a rider, but I just wanted to ask you because I was quite curious, and even we discussed it a little bit earlier. It seems like you're a real pioneer in the sport where, you actually brought your money to the table, created a race team, and provided an opportunity, obviously, for some amazing racers. But I'm looking now at, there's a big gap in the sport right now where people aren't putting back into it. You've got moms and dads helping their kids trying to go road racing, but it seems almost impossible for them. Do you see a future maybe where people would step to the plate and start a race team and start providing more opportunities for some of the younger talent that's coming up right now? Because there's some great riders in the country.
If I could just jump in and say one thing, Frank brought leadership and organization, and that was by far and away, that was the most important thing that he brought. And he led by example, and even some of the techniques, even some of the management skills that I used at Toyota when I was there for 22 years, I learned from him.
Yeah, Frank, let me jump in here as well. Now that you retired, any thoughts of having Team Champini, the sequel, and bringing the band back together, and maybe putting Crevier on a Arma vintage superbike heavyweight machine?
Yeah. I just attended an Arma event a couple weeks ago, and boy, did it bring back a lot of memories.
Yeah.
The atmosphere, the racing itself, the equipment. Man, I thought I was back in the early '80s. It was good. The only thing with that series is that they run multiple classes in one race. And it's really difficult to keep track of what's going on. In a lot of cases, they had 3 or 4 classes in the same race, They even had sidecars, which I haven't seen sidecars since my time. But yeah, it was fun. It was fun to go back there and watch that. I'm looking forward for the 200 coming up now. I know living in Daytona Beach, we picked this place for 2 reasons. The wife loves the beach, and I love motorsports, and there's a lot of it here. So so it's good, and everybody's welcome.
Don't say that, I'll come visit.
Oh, that's fine.
I'm coming too.
That could be your worst nightmare, Frank. Crevier at the front door.
Oh, yes.
I don't leave.
We'll have to tie him up.
I'm bringing the Remy.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Remy, at that final round in September of 1989, where you guys had put the wraps on all 3 championships, what was the celebration, dinner, or party like that Sunday night in Belleville?
Oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
I'm still recovering.
Oh, yeah. I believe I had 3 adjacent rooms together, and they were jam-packed with people. I think in the morning we got up, and Doris and I and a few other people were just cleaning up before we left. It was just a disaster. There must have been 200 people there.
It was fun.
Yeah, it was fun.
It was fun.
Stuart, Nodell, have we got anything else in the Q&A for any of the guys here tonight?
Yeah, maybe this one for Rick Hobbs is with Daniel Petrucci coming to Moto America. Is there a lot of excitement for this season?
Yeah.
I think obviously, it's big news to have a freshly out of MotoGP rider coming into our series. And by all accounts, he's a really personable guy. And so I think he's going to be fan friendly, and I think he's going to be somebody that is going to be a challenge for the current crop of young riders and current champions. He's got the talent. There's no doubt. I mean, and he's obviously got a wide range of talents based on his adventures in the Paris Dakar. So, I think the entire country that's pays attention to Moto America is excited to see him come.
Yes.
Rick, any word as to whether they're going to put him on one of the V2 Ducatis for the Daytona 200? Because I guess the entries are just starting to come in for the 200. I know the 2 Canadian riders that have posted entries, Darren James, of course, has got one of the new Attack Performance Yamahas, and Alex Coelho from Montreal. He's entered into the event.
Yeah, I haven't heard any rumor or scuttlebutt about him doing the 200. That it's a possibility, obviously, but haven't heard one way or the other for sure.
Steve Crevier, what about any riding that you may be looking at doing? Has anybody approached you, either a vintage road racing team or the events that go on at Phillip Island? Are we going to see you on a racetrack anytime soon?
Well, I mean, Scott Miller and I started trying to talk about getting things going, and it's like, it's kind of hard to say this or embarrassing to say this, but my personal financial situations are just not good now, you know, two more kids, and, you know, you got to like hunker down a lot more. And, you know, I could get some money thrown into it, but Scott started building a machine that's just some of the trickiest old candy you'd ever look at. It's just, Scott Miller Fast Company is just a magician mechanic. And it's like, I think maybe Jordan might be trying to take that. It's been 2 years in the build now, and I haven't been on Facebook much at all, or I just meet with devices and computers and everything. I mean, it's a bad thing. And today it would be, yeah, I mean, I'm still under a rock when it comes to that. So I think it's now maybe Jordan might fill that in, but I still might be able to get a little bit together, but I haven't been riding. Been a little bit tied up with things, and, you know, I had some troubles, and, you know, I went for a stint in a rehab because of my beer take is up too high and everything, and just to try to get a different look at things in life and everything. So, you know, I can't say, you know, and I cannot afford to, I wish I could say I could afford put back into things. And really, you know, when I look at it, it's like, oh yeah, you do some great things in life, and the riders at the time get all the attention and all the glory and everything. But, you know, look at Rick Hobbs. That guy's been a rock star, like taking us all and made us look small. He's a big shot winning team on Arian and Vance and Hines and blah, blah, blah. And the guy's ego is as big as freaking California owls. I mean, even a humble man. He's just, I'm Rick Hobbs. I've done this. But I did, you know, after, you know, Tom, which we all love and we miss so much, you know, Steve Wyatt, and, you know, we picked Rick up, and, you know, he wouldn't have been nothing without us, to be honest.
Yeah,
There you go, Rick. Crevier is taking 100% credit for your amazing career post 1989. So,
he's the only one that's made anything out of his life.
we've got only a few minutes left. I'm going to go around the screens here. Stu Shaw, what do you take from that 1989 season that you can reflect on here this evening? Is there a moment, a time that is very, very vivid in your memory?
Not really. I mean, just that, you know, looking back on it, it was some of the best years of my life, and I made some amazing friends and acquaintances and stuff like that. And I mean, they're here, you know, so I mean, they're all still kind of hanging around. So it's great. And I just want to say thank you to all of you for all of that.
Yeah. And Jonathan Cornwell, when's the last time you met up with John?
I haven't seen John in years, but I sent him notes and text messages after almost every race that they won last year, just congratulating him for all the hard work and all the effort and stuff like that. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, Stu, I don't know if you got any plans to go to Daytona. I do know somebody there who's got a place you might be able to find.
Yeah, but he doesn't drink anymore, so I can't go.
No Remy Martin. Rick Hobbs, what do you look back on that 1989 season, and what really sticks in your mind tonight as we reminisce and take a little walk down memory lane?
Well, yeah, I think I'm with Stu in that, you know, I think the biggest thing I take from it is, you know, the people that I've been fortunate enough to be part of something with, and, you know, working in a team atmosphere, and, you know, there's nothing like going racing to get instant satisfaction or instant depression. So I still value the friends that I've made over the years, and you know, the experience and the life lessons you learn from, you know, working with people of different personalities, and learning how to get along, and learning what people can help you with, or you know, trying to just work for a common goal with, you know, multiple different personalities. Sometimes, you know, it's not easy. So yeah, for me, I think that's the biggest thing, is just, you know, I really have a lot of warm memories from that year. And it really was kind of the start of everything for me as far as my career in racing.
Stu Nodell, I think we want to go to those few images that Bill Petro sent to us, and we'll get maybe Stu or Frank or Rick just to comment as we go through.
Unfortunately, Pat, I don't have any images.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
So my fault.
All right. Okay. You know what? We'll take those and we'll put them on Nodell's notes next week, because there were some great shots that Bill Petro sent us, not only some stuff here in Canada, but also Team Champini at Daytona, Crevier on the Aprilia, Paul McMillan on some of the bikes. So sorry we couldn't get to that tonight. Going around, Frank Ciampini. I was kidding about Team Champini, the sequel, but you never know. Maybe we'll see you in Arma one of these days. But what do you take back on that 1987? Because you certainly went out on top, 3 championships, and at the end of that season, the glorious run of Team Champini came to an end.
First of all, I mean, it was a dream on my part to put this privateer team and to hopefully just to be, you know, to challenge the others, the big guns. And I can't believe that we did it. And we did it only because of the efforts that these guys put in, you know, Rick and Stu and Steve Wyatt and Crevier and Jonathan. You know, they spilled their guts out for the team all year long. And you know what? When the chips were down, everybody pushed forward. So I appreciate that, and I thank you again. But I do want to say that I did have setbacks myself. One disappointment was I wasn't with the team champ. Well, I was with at Daytona, the 200, when Goodfellow was running our bike. And he was running right up top there, and I think there was a couple laps to go, and he crashed in the chicane. I thought we were going to do it, win an AMA event, the 200 at Daytona, the most prestigious one, and we came so close, but we still made the front page of the newspaper for all the wrong reasons. The crash was on the front page. So, but yeah, it was good.
Steve Crevier, I'm not sure. We've lost your video, but maybe we've got your audio. 60 seconds. Your final thoughts on that amazing 1989 season.
Well, you know, I mean, first foremost, I mean, I want to, you know, obviously, like, thank Frank Ciampini for putting the whole thing together. I mean, it was a proposal, you know, it wasn't really, again, you know, like, it wasn't really kind of going a lot of places, and I thought I was kind of going to retire from racing at that point anyways. And, you know, but it was, you know, I always felt it was a bit of, you know, John's team and Stu Shaw's. And I always felt like we were more of a guest and everything. And to be really honest, but thanks to Tom Tyre and Bill McLean and Pacific Yamaha, getting the other bikes, I mean, the other bikes just make more money. Although the 250s, I still want to race them. But honestly, I didn't really, you know, there's times I have to say to Rick and Steve, like, just park that damn thing. I got shit to do here. And, you know, I didn't realize, I mean, everything with the problem with the bikes and the trying to figure out where the bike was going was tires. And I knew that right away, and it wasn't going good for me. And I said, I'm not going to run these tires because you guys have a sponsorship. I'm going to run my tires. And I'm sorry, but, you know, I just had stuff to do, and I hope I didn't really walk on people, but I had stuff to do. And, you know, like, it wasn't really my team, and kind of, so you got to kind of tiptoe around that. But without that, I wouldn't have gotten where I went, you know. And after that, we went to Mexico, and I knocked down all the factory Yamahas. I won like a World Superbike Invitational race there, you know. And I mean, it really started off my career. And you know, I got Frank, and again, I cannot say enough about Pacific Yamaha, Bill McLean, Tom Tire, because that's from day one for me. But
Yeah.
without Frank and putting that team together, I wouldn't have those Canadian championships. But it was all about just, like sort of making a plan and the memories, and the Rick Hobbs and the Steve Wyatts. And, you meet so many great people and everything. And when you're in it, I really don't really smell the roses, but I'm going to rip right through and just shred all the roses. So, I mean, it's, like I lived it. I loved it. I had things I had to get done, and I did get some things done. But when you're in a program where the crew is not listening to you and directly 100% behind you, you lose that comfort level. Like this, that's why I have Pete Snell, comfort level. Not a great mechanic, but he listens to everything I need to say. And with Rick and Steve, I felt that, and I went forward with it. And if I, upset like Stu Shaw and stuff like that, and John. I didn't even really know I was doing it at the time. I just had to get done what I had to get done. And it's very selfish of me, but I can apologize now, but at the time I wouldn't even have known it, But
All right,
thanks,
Steve.
Frank.
Steve,
Thank-
I want to thank you for coming on. I'm hoping to get out to Vancouver in the spring, and hopefully we'll get a chance to meet up with you and Daryl Fletcher and a few others out that way. I want to
Fletcher,
thank
man, and thank you, Pat, about the Q107 Aprilia. Yes.
All right. Yeah. No, just my little way of giving back to a sport that's been amazing for me overall these decades. Stuart Nodell, your final thoughts, and then we'll wrap this up.
Just want to thank the guys for joining us, Pat. This was awesome to sit back and listen to them share their story. Probably one of the greatest motorcycle racing teams the country of Canada has produced. So it was great to share those stories with you guys. And I got to meet Frank Ciampini earlier this afternoon. I can't wait to stay in touch with him and just made a new friend.
All right, awesome. And Stuart, don't forget, we need to get those Bill Petro Team Champini photos up on the Nodell's notes section next week. That gives you
Will do.
another added reason to join us next Monday night. I want to thank Stuart Shaw, Frank Ciampini, Steve Crevier, and Rick Hobbs. Rick and Frank, we'll see you in Daytona in a couple of months. And again, thanks for coming on. This has been a great trip down memory lane here with Team Champini tonight.